Good evening. Thanks for joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Shereen Bhan. The headlines we're tracking for you tonight. The government is reviewing the export restrictions imposed on white and brown rice. Exporters have met officials and warned if a 6,500 crore rupee loss of duties are not lifted. Sources say the government is also reviewing the curbs on wheat and sugar exports. That's a CNBC-TV18 exclusive tonight. Stock markets reverse Monday's gains to end with sharp cuts. The Sensex loses over 600 points. The Nifty falls below 18,000. The rupee posts the biggest rally in 2 months, breaks below the 82 mark against the dollar. Metals rally as the Chinese economy reopens at a rapid pace. Morgan Stanley turns bullish on Chinese assets and expects the stock market to be the top performer in the world this year. Goldman Sachs expects Chinese stocks to rally 15%. Axis Bank revises its deal with Max Financial. The right to acquire 7% additional stake in Max Life will be at fair market value. CNBC-TV18 had reported this in October, that the insurance regulator had asked both parties to rework the deal. The Union Power Ministry asked power generation companies and utilities to import 6% of India's coal requirement for the next 9 months. Says coal supply from all sources is unable to meet the demands of thermal power plants. The centre is not looking at setting any standards for battery sizes as it readies battery swapping design norms, but will instead set safety and performance standards. Government sources tell us that the compliance standards would be voluntary to begin with, but mandatory once Bureau of Indian Standards publishes norms. Private equity giant Carlisle Group acquires a majority stake in beauty and wellness company VLCC. The founders of the 34-year-old company will continue to hold a significant stake. Financial details not disclosed. Authorities begin demolition of buildings marked unsafe in Uttarakhand's Joshimath. 678 buildings, including 2 hotels, are set to be razed to the ground. 81 families are currently living in relief camps, braving the biting cold. The UP government suspends the production license of Marian Biotech, saying the company did not respond to a show-cause notice. The Uzbekistan government linked the death of 18 children in the country to a cough syrup manufactured by the company. Former ICICI Bank CEO Chanda Kochhar and her husband Deepak Kochhar walk out of jail a day after being granted a 2-week bail. Bombay High Court had termed their arrest illegal, but also asked the couple to appear before investigating authorities whenever summoned. DGCA issues a show-cause notice to Go First after its Bengaluru-Delhi flight takes off without over 50 passengers. The airline issues apology to affected passengers, derosters concerned staff pending investigation. Well, we do have a packed show lined up for you, but let's start with the stock market action, where all the gains that we saw being made on Monday were wiped out. Sensex losing over 600 points, the Nifty lost nearly 200 points, and with this fall, the Nifty is back below the 18,000 mark. Bank and IT stocks today were the top losers. Meanwhile, in the money market, the rupee rising to a new 1-month high against the dollar on expectations that the US Federal Reserve could turn less hawkish. The rupee ended at 81.78 against the greenback. Metals are rallying as the Chinese economy reopens at a much faster pace than expected. China is dismantling its zero-COVID policy after nearly 3 years, and brokerages expect growth to get back on track. Morgan Stanley is bullish on Chinese assets and the yuan. It expects Chinese stocks to be the top performer in the world in 2023. Goldman Sachs has made a similar prediction a few days ago. It expects Chinese stocks to rally 15% this year. Manisha Gupta is standing by with the impact of China's reopening on the commodity market, specifically metals.
Well, yes, it has been a firm day for the metal prices, where we are looking at a 6-month highs in copper, a 1-month highs in zinc as well. And for the year as well, the beginning has been quite strong. You have 3.5% of gains coming for copper, nearly 6% up for zinc as well. This is because China has moved away from its zero-COVID policy. It's opening its borders with Hong Kong, and the trade is expected to begin on a stronger side. Also, when you look at construction, infrastructure, households, China is injecting a lot of liquidity in all of these sectors. sectors. Apart from that, there is restocking ahead of the Lunar New Year holidays as well, and that has been supportive. Apart from China, it also has to do with a sharp decline in the US dollar index that we saw. Markets are anticipating a lower interest rate hike coming from the US Fed in its Fed policy. And it also has to do with elevated energy costs and rationing that has led to a lot of smelting decline in Europe and Africa. And then there has been a report from Goldman Sachs which says that commodities will continue to run up in 2023, perhaps giving a return as high as 40% there. And Morgan Stanley also says, and it joins actually with Goldman Sachs in suggesting that China will rebound, the reopening will lead to higher outlook in sense of economy, and China being the major producer and consumer for many of these metals, that's yet another push that the metal prices got from there. If you look at the LME stocks, they are the lowest in 25 years. We also have seen copper smelting lowest in 6 years in 2022. So on fundamentals as a factor as well, there's a lot of support coming in for a few of these metals there.
Manisha, many thanks for joining us. Here's a CNBC TV18 exclusive tonight. The government is reviewing its position on the export duty imposed on white and brown rice. Sources say the measures are being considered as prices have stabilized in the domestic market. Sources also say that a review of the restrictions on the export of wheat and sugar is also being considered. Of course, no final decision has been taken just yet. Pariksha joins us now with the latest. Parikshit, what are your sources telling you? What's on the table for consideration?
Well, soon after the Ukraine-Russia war began, the government, in a bid to control price inflation, retail inflation, had applied curbs on the export of wheat, rice and sugar. We now believe that after receiving several industry representations and after some stability in domestic rice prices, also the domestic stock to cater domestic demand and welfare schemes, the government is now positively considering proposals to lift export duty on rice, and a decision could be taken very soon, possibly this week as well. They have received representations from different industry associations. Meetings have been held at the level of the Commerce Ministry and the Food Ministry. Rice exporters are seeking lifting of 20% duty on export of brown and white rice. Exporters are suggesting that the lifting of export curbs are necessary, and if this does not happen, that exporters could suffer a loss of 6,500 crores in foreign exchange as well. Exporters are also seeking approval to ship at least 1 million tons of broken rice till the end of 2023. So let's see what happens. But clearly there is a review on in light of the changed scenario as far as inflation goes, the price of rice in the domestic market and local stocks.
I think the prices remain quite stable. And also the procurement by FCI has been pretty good. So now the government is in a position to, of course, lift this export duty of 20%, which is pretty high because if you understand this business of exports of rice, it's a very labor intensive, lot of capital is invested in this, and their margins are not very large. So it is a very genuine demand of exporters.
So possibly the government likely to review the export restrictions imposed on rice, sugar and wheat. But, as we're pointing out, a decision yet to be taken. CNBC TV18's news break has been confirmed. Axis Bank has revised its deal with Max Financial to acquire 7% additional stake in Max Life. Axis Bank has confirmed that the additional stake in Max Life will be acquired at fair market value. Yash joins us now with more. Yash, you broke the story in October. Today it is official. Take us through the revised deal and its implications.
Well, Axis Bank in its communication to the exchanges has said that the bank has entered into a revised agreement with Max Financial Services on January 9th. As far as this revised agreement is concerned, it is in context of the acquisition of that 7% balance stake in Max Life Insurance by Axis entities. And as far as the revised agreement is concerned, it says that this acquisition of 7% stake will be done at a fair market value. Now, this fair market value, according to Axis Bank, will be derived through discounted cash flow mechanism, and this is exactly what CNBC TV18 had reported on October 19th, which was around the insurance regulator's objection on the current valuation mechanism and asking Axis Bank and Max Life to revise the valuation mechanism as per fair market value. As far as this move is concerned, it's a big positive for Max Financial Services, the parent company of Max Life Insurance, for three reasons. The first one is that uncertainties around this particular transaction now go out of the window and the deal can go through. Second one, Max Financial Services will get a higher value for its stake in Max Life Insurance, which will be bought by Axis Bank. Third one, the bancassurance partnership between the two entities will remain strong when Axis Bank holds about 20% stake in Max Life Insurance. How much would Axis Bank have to pay more with the revision in this valuation? I've just worked out some numbers. As far as the total equity base of Max Life Insurance is concerned, they have about 192 crore shares. 7% is to be acquired, which means about 13.4 crore shares. In the first scenario, if one is to take the last assessed valuation, which was 166 rupees per share, then in that situation, Axis Bank may have to pay about 1800 crore rupees additional as far as the revision in the valuation is concerned. Taking the second situation, in fact, the last transaction which happened in Max Life Insurance, that happened at 85 rupees a share. If that valuation is to be taken, then Axis Bank will have to pay around 670 crore additional if that valuation revision is made as per 85 rupees per share. But these are just assessments which we put together. The final valuation will only be derived through discounted cash flow mechanism as stated by Axis Bank.
Yash, many thanks for joining us. Now, TCS delivered in Q3, but the company's management expects demand from Europe to be soft. This despite the fact that TCS is hopeful about achieving 25% margins by the end of the fiscal, as they expect the deal pipeline to remain strong.
These 2 years have been a fairly strong growth years. The next year is like more a balanced year, a consolidation year, both on the revenue side as well as on the overall profitability side. The perspectives are very different depending on the markets. And I think the most important one is that we have a divergence in US between what the larger commentary is and what our own perspective is. And the 15% Europe, which has been a big growth driver for us till last year, that is off the boil and likely to remain soft in the near future.
Former chief of ICICI Bank Chanda Kochhar and her husband Deepak Kochhar have been released from jail today. The Bombay High Court called the arrest illegal, granted them bail yesterday in the Videocon loan fraud case. However, the couple must report to the investigating authorities whenever summoned. Now, Michael Patra will continue as the RBI Deputy Governor for another year. The government has extended his tenure by a year with effect from the 15th of January. His 3-year tenure was set to end next week. Bharat Pay has received in-principle approval from the Reserve Bank to operate as an online payment aggregator. A payment aggregator provides payment services to merchants and e-commerce sites. It pools the funds received from customers and transfers them to merchants after a set period. Several other fintech players, including Infibeam, Open, Cashfree and others, have received the payment aggregator license so far. The government is not looking at setting any standards for battery sizes as it readies battery swapping design norms, but it will instead set safety and performance standards. Abhimanyu standing by with more. Abhimanyu.
Sources have indicated that the government is not looking to set standards for battery sizes and is looking to implement safety and performance standards for vehicles in a phased manner. As the battery swapping industry is at a very nascent stage, the government does not want to hurt innovation by setting standards for battery sizes. The standards for safety and performance will be voluntary to begin with and will get mandated only after BIS publishes ARAI's rules in this regard. They will be first mandated for 2- and 3-wheelers, which usually witness the maximum number of battery swapping. The government is also exploring the possibility of extending these standards to long-distance trucks.
Abhimanyu, many thanks for joining us. The Union Power Ministry has asked power generation companies and utilities to import 6% of India's coal requirement for the next 9 months. The government has said that coal supply from all sources is unable to meet the demands of thermal power plants. A shortfall between the daily coal consumption and supply is between 1 to 3 lakh tons a day. The ministry has noted that coal stocks will progressively decline to nil and impact power supply if imported coal is not blended. Now, the UP government has suspended the production license of pharma company Marion Biotech, saying it did not reply to a show-cause notice. The company was under the scanner after its cough syrup was linked to the deaths of 18 children in Uzbekistan. Timsy standing by with the details. After Maiden Pharma, Marion Biotech also not responding to the show-cause notice issued by the government. Timsy, where do things stand?
Well, UP government has suspended the manufacturing license of Marion Biotech, and Health Ministry's report on alleged violations at Marion Biotech and Maiden Pharma both are still awaited. What we are given to understand is that Marion Biotech has not responded to the show-cause notice sent by UP government, and thus the license stands suspended. Government sources, meanwhile, have told CNBC-TV18 that the CDSCO's report on both Marion Biotech and Maiden Pharma on issue of adulterated cough syrups is still awaited. The test reports of samples which were sent in case of Marion Biotech also remains awaited by government labs, and CDSCO is waiting for these test reports. Only then CDSCO can form its final report, which will be sent to Health Ministry. So both Marion Biotech and Maiden Pharma, according to sources, were not GMP compliant, and the UP government, in case of Marion Biotech, has suspended the production license, noting that there is no response plus non-compliance. And yes, not to forget, the production was immediately suspended long back. In case of Maiden Pharma, even Maiden Pharma did not respond to the show-cause notice that was sent by Haryana government. And remember, these two cases look almost similar because the adulteration, the contamination is also same. But yes, when it comes to their manufacturing license, to their export license, they all remain suspended. Now the question is on the government as to how soon they will act on this non-response nature of both these firms, whether government will actually take it seriously and go ahead and look at some serious action or not. That is something that we'll have to wait and watch for.
Timsy, appreciate you joining us. Now, private equity firm Carlisle has acquired a majority stake in beauty and wellness brand VLCC. In a statement, the company said that funds for the transaction will directly come from funds managed by entities that are affiliated with the Carlisle Group. Arundhati joins us now with more. Arundhati, take us through the contours of the deal.
Well, absolutely. Private equity firm Carlisle Group has acquired a majority stake in Indian beauty care and wellness solutions provider VLCC, making a big play in India's booming D2C market. In a statement, the company has said that the equity for the transaction will come from funds managed and advised by entities affiliated with Carlisle Asia Partners. However, the PE firm has not disclosed any financial terms. Meanwhile, VLCC founders Vandana Luthra and Mukesh Luthra will continue to hold a significant stake in the company, which was founded in 1989. The skincare and beauty product brand has a network of 210 retail clinics in 118 cities across 11 countries in South Asia, the Middle East and Africa. In FY23, the company is expected to post revenues of 1,000 crore rupees, and 70% of the company's sales comes from the skin and beauty product segment. Now, Carlisle has invested over $5.5 billion in over 40 transactions in India as of September 30th, 2022. Now, in India, its investments range from SBI Cards to Metropolis, Yes Bank and Delivery. This comes at a time when India's beauty and personal care market has only been heating up. Just last year, we saw Reliance Industries pick up a majority stake in Natural Salon and Spa. With that, it's back to you.
Arundhati, many thanks for joining us. Dense fog, bad weather conditions continue to grip the national capital. Around 180 flights and 237 trains were impacted due to the fog this morning. For a second day in a row, domestic operations were impacted the most. Meanwhile, a Delhi airport official says there are no diversions or cancellations as of now. And days after CNBC-TV18 reported about Jet Airways Monitoring Committee head Ashish Chauraria asking Sanjeev Kapoor to not issue statements as the airline CEO, the Jalan Kolrock Consortium has responded, defending Kapoor's position in the airline. The GKC says that Kapoor has been cleared by the Aviation Ministry as the CEO designate and does not require approval from any statutory authority. The consortium said Chauraria is not authorized to write to Kapoor independently. The JKC has also advised him to refrain from communicating on behalf of Jet Airways until he's authorized by the monitoring committee. It also said that Chauraria's letter to Kapoor shall be considered null and void. Now, missing a flight is one of the biggest fears of almost every air traveller. Reaching late at the airport or a delay in airport check-ins are some of the common reasons why people miss their flight. But something very bizarre happened to passengers at the Bangalore airport yesterday. Over 50 passengers waiting to board the Go First flight were baffled to see the aircraft flying away with their luggage But without them, chaos and commotion followed as passengers took to social media to express their outrage. They were accommodated on alternate airlines after several hours of waiting. The aviation regulators issued a show-cause notice to the accountable manager and the chief operating officer of GoFirst, asking them to explain why action shouldn't be taken against them. Meanwhile, the airline has issued an apology to all the affected passengers. It's ordered an inquiry to probe the matter and has derostered the concerned staff until the investigation is complete. GoFirst is also giving the impacted passengers one free air ticket to any Indian destination. We will head into a break, but up next, authorities begin the demolition of buildings marked unsafe in Uttarakhand's Joshimath. That and more when we return. The big national story: evacuation continues in Uttarakhand's Joshimath, where nearly 700 houses have developed cracks. The Supreme Court has denied an urgent hearing of a petition that sought the court's intervention. The SC bench said that there are democratically elected institutions to look into the matter. However, the matter has been listed for hearing on the 16th of January. Authorities have meanwhile begun demolition of buildings marked unsafe. 678 buildings, including 2 hotels, are said to be razed to the ground. Local activists are protesting in the area, accusing the government and authorities of negligence. The Union Minister of State for Defence, Ajay Bhatt, also in Joshimath. The army is also impacted due to the crisis, and forces have vacated 29 buildings that they were occupying. My colleague Santya Gora gets us the key developments from Joshimath.
People of Joshimath gathered at Tehsil office of Joshimath and staged another protest. CNBC-TV18 also spoke to Atul Sati, convener of Joshimath Bachao Sangharsh Samiti. He told us that in last 14 months, he approached government representatives in the state government at multiple levels, starting from the SDM to DM up to the CM, but no one listened to him.
तो मुख्यमंत्री साहब ने जो है हमको सुनना भी गवारा नहीं किया, बैठना तो दूर, कहा कि मैं अपने सीएस से बात कर लूँगा, चीफ सेक्रेटरी से वार्ता करूँगा। तो हमने कहा हम क्या करेंगे, नहीं आप जाओ। तो हमको बड़ा वो लगा। फिर उसके बाद फिर उनके भाजपा के प्रदेश अध्यक्ष ने हमको बुलाया कि नहीं नहीं मैं देखता हूँ। फिर उन्होंने हमारे साथ धोखा किया। तो फिर अब हमारा जो है सब्र का बांध छलक गया और तब आकर के हमने यहाँ 4 तारीख बड़ा प्रदर्शन हुआ। 1,500 लोगों ने मशाल जुलूस निकाला, जो सारे टीवी कैमरों ने दिखाया है, टीवी के चैनलों में दिखा है।
मतलब लेवल्स आपने सारे कवर कर लिए, एसडीएम से लेकर के सीएम। सर अभी
जब जो है हमारा क्रोध इन्होंने, मतलब लोग क्या करेंगे इसके बाद, लोग सड़क पे आने की स्थिति में, तब जाकर के मशाल जुलूस निकला है। उसके बाद चक्का जाम लगा है, उसके बाद ये शुरू हुआ है।
While talking to CNBC-TV18 about the ongoing Joshimath crisis, MOS Defence, who visited Joshimath, said that everything is predestined. When asked about the claims of people of Joshimath, that how they tried to raise an alarm and alert the state government for over a year and nobody listened to them, MOS Defence said that let's not talk about the past, and now the union government will ensure that no one in Joshimath suffers.
पहले क्या हुआ उस ओर न जाते हुए आगे सारी जिम्मेदारी हम लेते हैं, सरकार ले रही है। सरकार की तरफ से मैं कह रहा हूं, मैं विश्वास दिलाता हूं, किसी को कोई परेशानी होने ही नहीं देंगे। जो हुआ अनहोनी टाली नहीं जा सकती है। एवरीथिंग इज प्रीडेस्टाइन्ड, सब पूरे निर्धारित है।
Well, CNBC-TV18 has been reporting from the disaster-hit Joshimath, where 80 families have been evacuated to safer locations. Santya spoke to a family who had no option but to leave their home in the bitter cold of January and are now staring at an uncertain future.
This is the Joshial family of Uttarakhand's Joshimath town. This big family used to stay in 3 houses right next to each other here. But at least 10 days ago, the family noticed that all 3 houses had developed serious cracks. By the 3rd January, when the Joshimath issue came to light, the family was shifted to the Joshimath Primary School. Days are still manageable, but as expected, nights are difficult, says the family.
लड़कियों लोगों भी रो रही कि हमारे पापा का बना हुआ था, दादी दादों का घर था, आज उनको भी रोना पड़ा। जैसे हम रो रहे वो भी रो रहे हैं। मम्मी हम कैसे देखेंगे अपने पापा का बना हुआ दादी दादों का घर।
There are 81 families which are dislocated and shifted to these rehabilitation camps till 9th of January. And as I said, it's past midnight and these people, this is how they are living.
This crisis has disturbed every aspect of the Joshial family. This is 16-year-old Rahul Joshial. Rahul is a student of class 10th and has to sit down for board exams in the next 2 months. Between all the moving and these dim bulbs at the rehabilitation camp, Rahul is struggling to prepare for his exams.
दिन भर शिफ्टिंग करते फिरते थक जा रहे हैं, फिर रात को ये पढ़ नहीं पा रहे हैं, अब फिर ऐसी टाइम हो जा रहा है, फिर बोर्ड एग्जाम है, डर लग रही है, पढ़ाई नहीं हो रही है ऐसी.
The state government says its focus is on safe evacuation.
अभी हमारी जो सबसे पहली प्रायोरिटी है, प्राथमिकता है कि सभी लोगों को सुरक्षित स्थानों पर किया जाए और जान माल की सुरक्षा की जाए.
The state government, which is now claiming to work in war-footing mode, had more than a year to take appropriate action, say the local people of Joshimath. Locals claim that it was in November 2021 for the first time that they noticed cracks in their houses. Residents claim that for over a period of 1 year, they tried to raise an alarm and alert the state government, but no one listened to them, including the CM himself. And now, when the situation has become worse, these people, these families are dislocated in this bitter cold of January. In Joshimath, with camera person Lakshman Singh, this is Santya for CNBC-TV18.
Well, challenging times there for the families that find themselves without a home and currently in relief camps in Joshimath. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Thanks very much for watching. The news will continue here on CNBC-TV18.